Before we begin, did you guys know that Texas Tech is bowl eligible since last week?
Alright!
Well, now you know. Let's begin.
Let's roll. Here we go.
Whoa, it's trouble with the
The expectation is greater than the appreciation.
Not conferences, different leagues.
The college football world is undergoing its yearly shock value as we progress into the second half of the regular season. Teams are falling apart harder than Twitch moderation, and clowns are evolving into a groundbreaking circus only the likes of Jimbo Fisher can manage. It's moments like these where the question must be asked: have you ever wanted to be Clown of the Week? If you have, I know the right place for you to take your attention to. Where else but the Squidtard Store? It's right here where you can find your Clown of the Week merch, on top of other references to college football chaos and more. The link is in the description of the video if you'd like to go see what's there, and by extension, add support to the efforts of Squidtard Sports and the production of the videos you get every week. Check it out sometime if you can, but not right now. It's time for some chaos. Friday night Tank Conference football never seems to let us down. Miami's only job at this rate, with the rest of the conference falling apart, is to avoid last year's problem to not crystal it up. Louisville, as previously mentioned, is a team nobody cares about. Too good to be terrible, too bad to be great. Perfectly average, which makes them so dangerous against the higher competition. It's crystalballing really hard right now. Chris Bell and Isaac Brown are doing the Miami defense like MTSU did a couple of years in the past. Carson Beck can't go a few minutes without committing a trademark and throwing a pick, and the Jeff Braun masterclass was in the making against number 2 teams. However, off of the talent fee, the Canes held their own and climbed their way back into the brawl. The talent fee's name was Malachi Toney. Off of his legs, the 7th floor came all the way back and brought the game into the final moments. Down by 3, all Miami needed was to get into field goal range for chaos overtime. After doing just that, all you got to avoid is the Krista Ball and Beck masterclass. Easy task, right?
And Beck will throw, gets rid of it quickly, and it is almost picked off. It is! It's intercepted!
TJ Capers seems to disagree. Hold on, I gotta make a call real fast. Yep, guess what? Miami dadgum did it again. Carson Beck throwing the game is truly a certified Carson Beck moment. The Cavender twins got to feel really vindicated post this one, as if he didn't throw basically 2 Hail Marys that resulted in picks where he didn't need to even be aggressive. It's like Shedeur Sanders with less Deion Glazers and more cracked up fans throwing hands inside the stadium. Good job finding a way to blow the ACC again. Clown of the Week for you. Biggest fall off for Carson Beck since the most recent Ice Age movie got a 4.5 out of 10. Holy shit, that did not take long, huh, Nebraska? The instant the lights lit up on your program, you fell apart and vanished right back into the cornfields. Matt Rule really created a great resume ahead of his tenure for Penn State with this one. Where this Minnesota team has been the previous weeks is a complete unknown, but what we do know is that the boat was certainly rowing. Hell, the boat found an engine. Darius Taylor was out there running all over them fools like it was 2019 all over again. Drake Lindsey quickly found life again after getting the bucknuts out of his everywhere, and he only had to throw the ball further than 10 yards once. Moreover, the Huskers offense was stuck in potential energy. All potential, no energy. Dylan Mahomes got a taste of the Eagles' D-line without actually facing it. Brother got sacked 9 times. I saw better protection at TwitchCon. It's a good thing Raiola has legs, as if he were Sam Levitt, Minnesota would have set NCAA records this night. This is all she wrote for the $5 broken chair, and any more games like this and it would be on sale at the damn Dollar Tree. Nothing new. The Huskers haven't seen this trophy in years and they probably won't see a win anytime soon. They're 1 win away from bowl eligibility and Elijah Pritchett is out for targeting. I've seen this story before. Minnesota fans are, wait, you're rushing the field for this? Doesn't really help the whole 7-5 narrative. There are many who are not wanting to see the results of this game. They are recommended through the algorithm and thus have no choice but to see it. UNC started the game and it was immediately over, it seemed. Shitting the football resulted in a JKS touchdown. It told the story of how Cal was going to find ways to score. The Tar Pit offense was unstable because of the shaky quarterback situation. Gio Lopez was just about as serviceable under Jordan Hudson's wife as he otherwise would be under Mac Brown. That said, he was able to do some things, but nothing more than to keep them in the game. JKS was doing his part for Cal, but only when he threw to Jacob the Jesus. Everyone else on that roster had bricks for hands. You'd think this would be enough to cure UNC's football depression, since we're talking about Justin Wilcox, the one guy in the conference who let a 2-10 FSU beat him. You'd be right. In crunch time, Lopez and Benjamin Hall crawled their way to the end zone with minimal time left. Oops, did I say end zone?
Lopez over the middle. Ball comes out at the very end, loose in the end zone. Cal football, it is ruled a touchback.
Well, at least Nathan Leacock didn't just drop the football. To think the Tar Pits had to stay up until 2 a.m. for this debauchery. The tenure is likely to end before Frank Reich's the way this is going. Just let Jordan take over, please! This is a humiliation ritual! A moment in history nobody will forget. Seeing Vandy ranked for 1 and favored over a top 10 team is truly a sight to see. Then again, why weren't they favored more? LSU is just as close to a top 10 team as I am landing a date with Diego Pavia's mom. Speaking of which, Pavia had little issues carving apart LSU's defense, as any defense under the tutelage of Burger King is set to fall apart against anything with a pulse. Pavia pulled out his anchor and let it swing. The Tiger defense had very little way to adapt to it other than using their own offensive talent, or lack thereof. When you have a guy like Xavier Thomas doing what he did in the game, you have no choice but to stay in contention and make things interesting late. However, Diego Manziel was letting it all hang out. And if you know LSU, then you know they aren't allowed by the rule of overratedness to score more than 25 points in a given football game. Second to UNC's useless ass, this offense has a total turd stain that knew it was outmatched. Talent composites ain't got nothing on the pimp door. They knew they were better than you. The fans didn't even bother single line rushing the field, a silent celebration for bowl eligibility. First time they got the 6 wins before November in over a full century. Let the anchor hang, I say. They played Colin Baton Rouge whilst LSU calling for a new head coach. Remember everyone, James Franklin syndrome never died. It spread and mutated itself. With Super Mario's predictable downfall, it's now up to the underdog of the game, the Georgia Tech Piss Jackets, to carry the torch and by extension, the conference as a whole. How else should they show their strides by taking a Duke fumble back 95 yards for the longest fumble return in Tech history? Despite how that would already be a killing blow in most cases, this did not deter the Blue Devils from trying to pull the upset. Not an upset. Cooper Barkay did pretty much all the work for Daria Mensah, with 172 yards receiving, but it goes to show how both defenses were going in reverse. As per the usual, Haynes King would not be denied his glory, and is willing to run straight into the fire on any given Saturday. Pass, run, he'll do whatever it takes, even if it involves with him getting hurt every single game. Duke won the game in yardage, but stats do no good when you implode to death on most red zone drives. Tech turned up the clutch ball, as they are a 4-quarter team, and sweated their way to 7-0 for the first time since 1966. They may be perennial underdogs, but they embrace their role and continue to win regardless. Contribute that part to the typical Manny Diaz collapse. Remember when this game had national title aspirations one time? Nah, me neither. Considering how both of these seasons have gone, I'll say I'm a little surprised at how this one went. Only because I remember what USC did to Michigan's defense not that long ago. However, the Wolverines seem to have quickly remembered they have talent on the front and it showed in this game. It's like they have a randomizer to find out which defense comes on any given Saturday. The Huskies got the short end. Besides a Jonah Coleman push to the end zone, Washington did nothing all day but sucker punching themselves into an early purple grave. Damon Williams struggled in agony through the entire experience, whilst Bryce Underwood proved why he was so highly scouted during high school. The Huskies couldn't sustain any sort of success and spent the entire game giving Underwood more chances to prove his worth. If I were the Huskies administration, I'd check the cameras to see if Wink Martindale might have taken a few signs. You can't ever trust the Wolverines administration to obey the rules. Nonetheless, Michigan's defense keeps their hopes of the playoffs alive, but they're going to have to be more than big house merchants in order for anyone to take them seriously. Getting Justice Haynes back will do serious work. In the meantime, celebrate the win by getting in a bikini. It's late October, wear a damn hoodie! I'm, at this point, convinced that there is some sort of secret financial struggle the Boston College administration is undergoing. Because otherwise, why in the holy mother of ass is Bill O'Brien still coaching there? It's like they're still waiting patiently for the comeback to arrive. Firstly, you have no such talent to achieve a comeback. Secondly, everyone else around you is more talented and prepared for games than you are. Thirdly, you just got whooped by fucking UConn. No doubt Joe Fagnano is a Husky legend who will be remembered for helping the Huskies with their first Power 4 win on the road since 2012, which should make it all the more embarrassing as a Golden Eagle that you got beat like this. Grayson James is better than anything Syracuse has trotted out in the past few weeks, so none of what I am looking at is something I can understand. Jordan McDonald, Juice Vereen, how did things go so wrong? If I'm UConn, I'm signing the application for joining the conference and giving it straight to the Tank Conference front office. You know they're desperate for new teams. BC continues the quest for a 1-win season, and they might achieve it before Bill O'Brien gets the pink slip. You know what? Is this really an upset? try to give them no attention as they usually fall apart once it happens, but Houston is still in contention for the Big 12. Arizona is not far behind. As with Noah Fafita finally finding new receivers to target, the Desert Cat offense has been made watchable once again. His precision and accuracy reached a record high in this one. However, Connor Walgreens would not be denied on this day. Through a ground day and physicality on the line, the Cougar offense struck back time and time again. Fafita constantly put his life on the line to counter because their defense couldn't get a stop. That was until they eventually did, and Arizona jumped on that opportunity, tying the ball game at 28 apiece. I think you know exactly how this one must end. The game needs a hero, and just as Spider-Man would in any given neighborhood situation, Ethan Sanchez was called upon to once again save the day for Houston. Can he answer once again?
The ball game. Did he? He did! Touchdown! Field goal wins it for Houston.
Indeed he can. Thus ends another agonizing football lobotomy for Arizona fans. Ignoring the constant ref ball, this was a great game where somebody had to win. It all results in Houston becoming bowl eligible once again. As the football gods would write, of course it was going to be the team with a commentator who played in Houston that would win. The entire thing was a recipe for bullshit. Oh great, we're doing this again. Texas weather, everybody. So last week, Shane Beamer got into a press conference and told everyone not to press the panic button. South Carolina started 3-3 last season and played Oklahoma in Game 7 too. What happened afterwards was an ass whooping for the Sooners. The dream scenario was repeating that. But instead, we got whatever the hell this was supposed to be. Safe to say the panic button can be hit now, because last year's team didn't have an offensive tumor known as Mike Shula. This disastrous hire ensured that there would be nothing but pain and agony awaiting the poor Gamecock fans in attendance for this one. John Mateer's hand may be screwed to its limit, but that doesn't stop him from tearing through the defense, with the addition of the run game finally returning to keep the offense moving. Lenore Sellers did what he could to contend, but as Nebraska could tell you, if you have to spend the length of the game running for your life, your odds of doing anything significantly decrease. But Oklahoma gives you that special thank you for sending them back to the postseason. Through the Sooners' domination of the trenches, it proved that being the lords of practice doesn't mean anything when you get into the big games. We've reached Muschamp levels of selling on the field. Pour one out for my good friend Carolina Jackpot.
God damn it! This is pain! He f***ing fumbled his f***ing goddamn hand! He f***ing fumbled and you still let him score! You f***ing classy f***ing God!
Well, no experience is more humiliating for a Gamecock than getting caught with your Gamecock out in a porta potty. If you know, you know. Oh, you stupid ass broadcast, work with me! Alright, there we go. Anyway, welcome back to another brawl between strong rivals Baylor and TCU. I'm sure this one won't feature any drama or toxicity, since when has that ever happened? The three separate storm interruptions are proof that there's no escape from the drama. Once the game actually progressed, it took little time for Josh Hoover to take control on the behalf of Baylor turnovers. But even with the delay of offensive production, Sawyer Robinson would fight back time and time again. The Horned Frogs, despite having seeming control of the game at several points, couldn't get the Bears to screw off and die. They just wouldn't. It's like when you leave an open trash bag out in the night in the middle of the woods. Of course a bear is going to show up and start feasting. Even with a multiple score lead, Baylor jumped back in and still had a shot off of an onside kick. They got a lot of tracks to cover though. Let's see how long it takes.
Here comes the TCU pressure. Deal picked off. That will do it.
Shot instantly. Baylor would be the #1 team in garbage time football. That much I'm sure of. TCU got you yet again. What's that saying? Biff, bam, slap a kazoo or something? Yeah, close enough. I'm so glad these two squads just so happened to meet this season. The second term bowl on HBO Max was just about as cancerous as you would have expected. However, it was not competitive. We have superficial proof off of this game that Scott Frost 2 is doing a whole lot better than Rich Rod 2. The whole point of changing coaches in the first place was to get better than they otherwise would have been keeping the coach. UCF is certainly better than they were under Malzahn. However, the Mountaineers are a complete failure to the game of football. Neil Brown had at least some level of competition against these teams, but the Mountaineers' strong is getting beat in every facet of the game. The defensive holes have a higher area than the inside of a volcano, and the offense is a manifestation of a quarterback tryout. Granted, losing Nico Marchiol to a foot injury has left a lot to be desired in this position. I mean, look at what happened to Arizona State the moment Sam Levitt got hurt. But this is UCF. Being unable to compete should be a massive wake-up call for Rich Rod. Pitt has to hear from these morons for a very long time at the bare minimum. The Knights get their first October win since 2022 and prove that Scott Frost might be a UCF merchant. Just keep him there and see how it goes. Even with the Big Ten West being gone for 2 years, I'm glad to know the concept still applies to some. After this showing by the Soilermakers, we may have found someone actively searching for James Franklin to come save them. There's only one way to ensure that Preston Stone can't blow a football game, and if you can't bench him, just make sure the other team never sees a point. Seems they found the right solution. Ryan Brown getting hit with this did them no good in trying to do anything against the Northwestern defensive front. Even when Malachi Singleton came in, the result wasn't much different. Turnovers, offensive stagnation, plus Barry Odom play calling ensured a slow, painful death for the Trains. You'd have to look real hard to find a time in history a train has collapsed this hard, but if you want a pointer, I suggest looking up Ryan Walters. The Northwestern Stadium may be empty, but even with the constant pain from pedestrian Stone and the lack of productivity from David Brown, they sealed the deal and got the dub. Surviving and thriving is the way of the big leagues, especially since this is your first shutout since 2017. I wonder why they ever merged the divisions. Oh my goodness, wow, what a totally unpredictable and unexpected outcome we have presented here on the screen. It's almost like one is the #1 team in the nation and the other one is dead on the rival because their offense is a detriment to the entire conference. Wisconsin has an offense to such a low degree that they are outright lowering the conference's total numbers just by being there. The special teams is a greater offense because the punter is at least moving the ball forward to some degree. Meanwhile, Julian the Super Saiyan once again found his footing, with 400 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns. Finding his footing is obviously an understatement. It's another quick and easy execution off of Ohio State's title-level defense and improving offense. I'm not really sure what Wisconsin is waiting on. The odds of a revival this late in the season are somehow even worse off than Bill O'Brien's. Let it go. It's over. You're getting constantly thrown into the buck chair and just accepting it as fate. You've been shut out twice in a row. Call it a year, and maybe somewhere down the line, you'll turn into UCLA. Considering the direction the Spartan season is going, I'd consider it progress that you didn't lose to the Hoosiers by 37 this time. That said, this was likely Indiana's worst game defensively, and yet they only allowed 13 points. That alone should tell you how much of a joyride this entire year has been for Kirk Cignetti. Fernando Mendoza had another day at which he was surgically precise, and Michigan State had no answers to stop it. We all know Aiden Childs ain't keeping up with that unless Nick Marsh has 400 yards receiving. So it was a quick and easy whooping for Indiana again. Off of this easy game, the Hoosiers continue to climb the AP poll and now arrive into Week 9 as the #2 team in the country. Survivability in this rank is uncommon, so expect the iron to get hotter than ever now that you found yourself in this position. We can only hope they and Ohio State both fill their end of the bargain for the Big Ten championship. I wonder if anybody's actively searching for Jonathan Smith. As with every time these two teams face off, this was a .337 blood alcohol concentration type of ball game. Now that Sam Pittman is no longer steering the ship that's turned into a motorcycle, Bobby P is doing his best to try and keep Arkansas from beating themselves. He is ensuring that by trying his best to do that job on their behalf. Taylor Green and the offense did their part, keeping up with A&M and constantly giving them scares. While it took them a while to do so, Arkansas is great at giving everyone they play a whole lot of hell before they die. Once A&M got the second half lead, they kept trying their best through the run and pass game to keep from giving it back to the Piggies. But the newly refurbished Arkansas offense is like Tyson chicken in the air fryer, delicious on a different level. Even if they weren't going to win the game, they were going to keep the battered Aggie syndrome alive for the entire ball game. Off of a massive spook in the Halloween season and terrible Petrino clock management, A&M maintains their undefeated stature and advances to 7-0 for the first time since they were banned from television. They're 2 games away from killing the curse at the bare minimum. They'll escape the Razorbacks, who I am very convinced will get someone this season. Just a matter of which team will get massively trolled. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll be singing Hot Dog this week. If you want to knock off Georgia, you either need to be up by an insurmountable lead with minimal time left, or you need to be Alabama. Ole Miss is neither, and furthermore, they're Ole Miss. The first half was a pleasure for the Rebs, with Trinidad Chambliss and company having no issues scoring on most of their drives. But if the Dogs are good at anything, it's putting their opponents under a false sense of security. Gunnar Stockton came to the realization he was surrounded by highly scouted talent and quickly took advantage of it. It's the fourth quarter after all, and that's where Mike Bobo is allowed to use his brain. But only if they're down. All the prerequisites are met, which resulted in Kirby Mouse quickly taking control of the ballgame. Suddenly, the Rebels found themselves to be losing. The God-tier offense was now suddenly dead on every drive, and rather than execution, they got executed. Mix this in with a Pete Golding masterclass, and it resulted in Ole Miss proving their stature as eternally lower than elite. Turns out calling Kirby fat before the game was all the fuel he needed to send you back to Oxford with your first L of the year. It also sends UJ back to the postseason as well. Georgia in the second half might be the team strong enough to give Indiana a challenge. Weird that Kiffin couldn't pull it off in the end. It's almost like he was thinking about something else, perhaps. Ain't nobody thinking about this one, which is very ironic since this game was for the ACC title the last time these two teams met. Now it's for the rights not to be featured in a future toilet bowl. With Klubnik still fighting the injury bug, Christopher Vizina would have to sub in his place. While he had a better performance than his debut for sure, he was fighting a losing battle. Not only did Clemson outright refuse to run the ball in any capacity, SMU's offense was one the Tater defense had no clue how to shut down. Jordan Hudson, the not succubus one, carried the load through the receiving game and racked up numbers the other side couldn't. TJ Moore was close, but not close enough. It proves Tom Allen was really just carried by Abdul Carter. His formations were quickly exposed as vulnerable holes, and they showed more and more throughout the ballgame. Luck was not on Clemson's side, and neither was the injury bug. Bryant Wesco hit awkwardly with a back injury. While he's thankfully in positive health, he's out for the remainder of the year. With his injury, everything else caved in favor of SMU and the Taters fall to 3-4. The expectation and appreciation are no longer available. For you and Penn State are competing for fraud of the year. The transfer portal will be really nice to have right now, huh, Dabo? The Pony Excess is still undefeated all-time versus the ACC. The remaining opponents have their chance to pull off a serious funny. There was a legitimate reason as to why UNLV was undefeated and not being considered for a ranking in the AP poll. If you saw them play on any given Saturday, you immediately understand why. They had it coming somewhere down the line, and who else but the Blue Horsies to be the ones to finalize the execution. When your entire game philosophy is outscoring every team that you play, what exactly do you do when the other team is playing your game? The answer is to adapt to the best of your ability, and with a defense like UNLV's, you're just cooked. Especially when the offense isn't scoring every drive or dare allows a pick six. There's nothing that can be done with that other than to accept your fate. Dylan Riley became Genty Ball 2.0 in this ballgame, and Maddox the Madman finally lived up to his namesake. Proves that the Rebs defense works like the Atari 5200. It doesn't. Thanks to said factor, Boise State has undergone some serious development. Not that they had a leg to stand on, but Mullen's playoff run comes to a close with this result. Wonder if he's thinking about a Power 4 job opening. Might be a school in need of some redevelopment. Uh-oh, Chaos Conference is undergoing a massive episode of tomfoolery. Nothing gets a quarterback going more than taking the week off and coming back after their backup has an aneurysm of a game. Sam Levitt has returned with a Nino Nakano level comeback arc. Because of that, Texas Tech has met competition to truly go blow for blow with them in the conference. Not only did Levitt match up well against the Red Raider defense, but he excelled. 300 yards through the air is a stat against the defense Tech hasn't seen since, well, every other season. While Tech did fight back, the struggle with Barron Morton still injured was all too certain. Will Hammond was serviceable for his position, but struggled in key plays where they were needed. Thus, the Red Raiders came dangerously close to becoming the next undefeated on the chopping block. However, just when the odds looked to be against their favor, Joey McGuire's talent came through with two very quick back-to-back touchdowns. Followed by a 2-point conversion, it looked at everyone that State's efforts were in vain. Fourth down awaited as their final shot to survive. Jordan Tyson, talent personified. He's about as close to that as you can get to Cam Skibbity in the clutch ball aspect. Hope the running backs inherited some of the Skibbity energy though, because now it's their turn. Final moments of the ball game, the fork has arisen and the tortilla has been put firmly on it. I mean, it can't be put on the field since now that's illegal. It'd be the right move to ridicule the Red Raiders for this performance, but without their starting QB up against Sam Levitt, giving them the benefit of the doubt is a suitable move. It's Chaos Conference after all, nobody is safe from its grasp. State has further chances down the line to further flip the conference on its head, because if they can't go to the playoffs, nobody can. One thing you gotta give credit to the G6 for is that in any given week, any given game, nobody is safe. One team was undefeated and seeking playoff status, and the other just fired their head coach coming off another embarrassing beatdown. But they clearly got the UCLA treatment as proven by the results on the field. All they needed to do was get rid of the Trent Dilfer pathogen, and suddenly, the team is a new beacon of light in the form of what we call no expectations. Not only that, but UAB was starting a brand new quarterback at the helm in the form of Ryder Burton. He's never seen any playing time, but that didn't stop him from playing like a seasoned veteran. With 500 yards of offense, the only way Memphis was avoiding the upset is if they can go blow for blow with the Blazers, but the injury bug had other plans. With no Brendan Lewis to rely on, they would end up falling short of survival. Nothing is more dangerous than a team with nothing to lose. Let that be known to South Florida, who now has a free path to the playoffs as long as they do what they're supposed to do. Not too much pressure though. You can only imagine the kind of man-made horrors that are produced when you put these two squads in the field. It was just as terrible as advertised. Between all the chants to fire Billy in the swamp, Florida did their best to hold down the Mississippi State offense. With Devon Booth back, so was State's consistent run game, as they gashed the Florida line through said run game. However, the Gators did the same in return, as Jaden Baugh had a career high in rushing this game. And good thing too, we know Billy Napier ain't planning any big passing plays outside of screens. Trey Smack managed to land the Gators a few points on a battle of who can finish like 13th in the SEC or something like that, and State found it tough to establish any sort of passing game. After all, you're not facing Josh Heupel at home. There are moments it's difficult to remember Florida has a lot of defensive talent in front of a coaching staff with the brain matter equal to the monkeys playing the cymbals. But nonetheless, with minimal time left, the Cowbells found themselves in a very similar position to South Florida, pulling off another very big funny in field goal range.
There's a snap. Gators bringing some pressure. It's picked off!
Or they throw the football game away by getting picked off by a big man up front. Incredible work as always, Jeff Lebby. Glad to know that despite the scare you give to many SEC teams, you're still Mississippi State. Now that being said, you may have lost, but Florida loses no matter what happened here. Billy Napier is going to get another extension for this clinic of a game, because there's no way they'd ever fire someone after winning. Unless you're Jimbo Fisher. Can't really say anyone didn't see this one coming. The Scarlet Knights were in a line of fire against the Duckies coming off a depression at home. Rutgers fans are always depressed because they'll never get what Vandy and Georgia Tech have right now. Additionally, the effort they put up tonight does them no favors in happiness. Was pretending you were a Power 4 team too much to ask? Athon Krakatoa by the name I gave him and blew himself up in an attempt to battle against the Duckies. Bad day to do it too. The defense chose to take the day off, as Oregon amassed over 750 yards of total offense, including 400 on the ground. Looked less like a football game and more like one of those November scrimmages the SEC schedules. Will Shiano Sunday ever come? Probably not. The fans are turning on their own, as they want this man gone for the second time now. If nothing else, you prevailed the Duckies to the postseason. No, that's not a mistake. I put Oregon as bowl eligible over Indiana last week. Further proof you need to Google Kirk Cignetti. Is it just me, or is Wazoo suddenly a formidable force now that they have nothing to lose? They didn't even need to fire anyone for them to suddenly gain a pulse. It's like everyone they play is looking ahead to a different game. Never thought Virginia of all teams would be caught lacking, but here we are. They're 5-1, ranked, and yet they still can't escape the CW. Must have been a central reason as to why they refused to show up on this day. The offense moved in slow motion on both sides, as Chandler Morris refused to move, and Wazoo moved by as slow as they possibly could. They looked like the better team for much of the game. More first downs, better yards in early quarters, even Xavier Outcast was hitting receivers in stride. Up 20-10 in the fourth quarter, there wasn't any way Wazoo was going to blow this one, until they began blowing it. The Cavaliers managed to tie the ball game before time was up. Now the ball was on Wazoo's side. Let's see what sort of tomfoolery they can pull with this one.
Just barely not a safety.
Dare I say, it's honestly impressive how this team keeps finding new ways to disappoint their fan base. The Cavs win the bullshit bowl off a ref ball and a game-winning safety, so off to the postseason for you. Hoo-hawing their way back for the first time since 2019. They might get the honors of another blowout versus an SEC or Big Ten team. Texas is back, everyone. Back to Tom Herman football. I don't care how bad your offense is, if you're a talent-rich school and you're playing on an even footing with Kentucky, all of your aspirations for the season are forfeit. We're all well aware that Ole Miss pulled this feat off too, but they always blow it down the line. You've already blown it versus Billy Napier, and might blow it even further. Arch Manning continues to be one of the greatest busts of the century, leading Texas with an astounding 12 throws. A total of 93 yards in the entire half just sort of proves Kentucky's defensive line is the only thing that makes them worthy of mentioning in these videos. The entire offensive game plan is run up the middle or die running it up the middle. They more often than not die. Not here though. Kentucky had 18 more first downs, 90 more rushing yards, 120 more passing yards, 20 more minutes of time of possession, but yet they still couldn't find a way to put Texas down for good. Kentucky football in prime fashion right there. Off of a game-tying field goal by Mason Shipley, we're off to a very unfortunate chaos overtime. The basketball school got the ball first and proceeded to have something very unexpected: offensive movement. However, they elected to push it up the middle, or like I said, die still running it up the middle.
Bully, handoff, diving. I don't think so. He did not get it.
Death by death. Mark Stoops is still waiting patiently for more basketball funding to get the pink slip. Results like this do such outcome great justice.
Snap, good hold, kick on the way. Kick is good.
Formation.
And despite all of it, Texas.
You know, I know Penn State was dead, but I didn't know they were dead. Glad to know that's confirmed with this outcome. Kirk Ferentz with an actual offensive weapon is a scary force. Mark Gronowski isn't much of one, but he's more than enough to go blow for blow with Ethan Gruckmeyer, who's been thrown to the wolves following the injury of Drew Aller. It took 3 losses for the Nittany Lions to remember that they had talent in the running back field, and chose to actually use it this time. Katron Allen's 145-yard rushing game was just what Penn State needed to at least be competitive. Little do they know, though, that the Hawk-Tuas have been building an offense worthy of like 25 points a game, and most of that is contributed through the run game. Almost 250 yards rushing by the end of it. They need to stick to the run game like their program is stuck to the Peacock Network. Though Kirk Ferentz tried to blow it with boneheaded calls like a 66-yard field goal, the run game proved to be too much for Penn State's sorry ass to overcome. Number 2 team in the land and 4 straight losses. A catastrophic failure the size of the Titanic and probably the second worst thing I've seen in Penn State history. I needed the ones who predicted Penn State to win a title to stand up and make yourselves known. Predict Georgia to win a natty next year. The tear continues for the Bruins. Ever since they established some sort of identity, they've been a competitive squad the likes of which the Big Ten hasn't seen from them. A surprise shock from Nico of all quarterbacks. Let's remedy that real fast.
Takes the handoff, pass is intercepted. It's a pick 6.
Hilarious. You'd think Maryland would be able to ride off of this moment, but then you remember what month it is and realize this was definitely not happening. UCLA didn't feel like doing much either, as you can imagine. So for around 3 quarters, you had 2 unmotivated piss piles sleeping the game away and by extension, everyone's time. Once clutch ball came around, both offenses woke up and began to get back to work. The Bruins took the lead by 7 before the Turtles drove their way back in off of Jaleel Farouk. 17-all was what we were looking at with only 40 seconds left to go. But as Mike Loxley's defenses do best, they caved in the final moments of the ball game, letting Nico drive down the field to get well into field goal range. Scott Frost sends his condolences.
Snap and hold. Here's the kick from 23. He got it!
You're still competitive at least, but that price comes with constant heartbreak. Maybe next time, try running the ball once or twice. I know you're desperately holding on to Malik Washington, but I say try to do it. The 3rd Saturday in October is back once again. Tennessee hasn't gone on the road and beat a ranked Bama team since 1999. The odds of doing it here seem unlikely knowing Josh Heupel's track record on the road, but belief is a powerful tool. But Tennessee fans were given no choice but to believe in a Tim Banks defense. That was a mistake. The defense is an atrocious mess of bad tackling and formations built for 10-yard gains. Every time I see Tim Banks coach defense, I'm more and more convinced he doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, and James Pierce built that defense from last year. It's made up of butter in 1998. He managed to keep Alabama at bay for long enough for Joey Hazel to draw up another bubble screen 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. But the Vols kept up with them, as they had a chance to make it a very close game before the half. But due to yet another mismanaged clock job by Heupel, everyone knew what play Tennessee was going to run with no timeouts in their pocket, which resulted in this beautiful moment.
And it's a play action pass, and it's intercepted! Zabian Brown with one man who can catch him. Zabian Brown all the way! Touchdown, Alabama!
Behold, the reason we will never win a game in Tuscaloosa again. Saying I'm sick to my stomach would be a lie, since I've gotten so used to watching this every single year that it no longer makes me feel sick. It's nothing new. In any big road game, Tennessee spends the entire thing eating their own ass while letting Alabama or whoever else eventually run away with it. Penalties, soft play calling, horrific clock management. I've seen all these things in every road game, and more often than not, it results in getting embarrassed on the road to the point that victory cigars are getting smoked with 5 minutes left to go. Shocking revelation, it happened again! Forget the black hoodie or the 4 consecutive ranked wins or the fact they made it to bowl eligibility already.
High time, guys! High time!
Tennessee had a clear shot to get back in this ballgame and win it, but they once again outright refused to show up. I wish I could do like Tony Vitello and leave, but everyone here knows I'm sewed to this university and can't ever detach from its grasp. But my patience is wearing thin on this administration, the talent fee bullshit. Paying more than any other university just to watch the same regurgitated syphilis on the road year after year. Past administrations being terrible is no excuse for mediocrity! Lock in and win out and everything is forgiven, so just do something, please. Go small orange.
Feast mode activated. Hashtag hungry. FeedMeMore.com.
The temporary anthem of Jeremiah Love. In a soggy South Bend circus that ended in a full-blown clown show, Notre Dame somehow kept their streak alive, and they did it in spite of CJ Carr, not because of him. The Irish leaned on a rejuvenated Jeremiah Love, who found his swagger again thanks to, who else? Lincoln Riley, ever the generous soul in Cardinal and Gold. USC's defense got South bent over once again, looking allergic to tackling or effort, which fits perfectly with the growing sentiment of why should the fans care? Riley doesn't care about you. Remember that one time he spoke the quiet part out loud when he was talking about the spring game and why he didn't even bother to have it? I'm sure the fans remembered it while watching you throw out another trick play in the rain. And somehow, Chris Ash is good now? Sure, why not? Just another hilarious chapter in a rivalry that absolutely needs to be extended, because college football needs this brand of lunacy every single year. Good news is now the Irish have already fulfilled their narrative, and as long as they win out, they'll be back in the playoffs. ESPN might have a gooning session for that one. Well, good news. Ricky Collins didn't throw 5 picks as his predecessor Kyle McCord did the last time these two teams met. But honestly, it wasn't that much better. In a game that could only be described as the Ref Bowl, flags rained down harder than footballs. Pitt racked up 13 penalties for 114 yards, while Syracuse answered with 12 for 107. Symmetry only in penalty yards is the exact type of thing you'd expect from the ACC in primetime. Somehow, Pitt is living again for some reason. A total reverse of last season, even as both teams' injury reports start to look like Walmart receipts. Safe to say Mason Hyde-Snell has refurbished the Pittsburgh offense, as Pitt stumbled its way to something resembling competence. For Syracuse, Luke Carney only had like 3 pass attempts, but he's probably still far better than anything that you've got, so it's worth giving him a shot, you know what I mean? Because Pitt got beat by the burning couch from Morgantown, Pat Narduzzi needs more wins like this in order to make this season a success for Pitt. Just make sure Toledo isn't anywhere near your location. This game could have been an email, you know? I only say that so nobody is forced to undergo the football it presents. I remember what happened back in 22. Everyone else who does know what's coming up in this one. Auburn's offense looked like it was being controlled by a cat walking across the playbook. Jackson Arnold could take the dog out on a walk and he'd get sacked on the first step, while the rest of the unit looks equally lifeless as well. Mizzou's reliance on Hardy Ball is about the only thing they've got going for them. Bo Prabula is about as mixed of a bag as you could possibly get. With 2 undercompetent offenses like these, all that was left to do was wait until one offense drove down the field in the final moments of the ballgame. That would naturally be the Mizzou offense, who got into Auburn territory to effectively end the game. I really hope.
They bring the house again. Lobs downfield for Johnson. Contact. And Auburn thinks they picked it off.
Motherfucker. Chaos overtime without the chaos is what you get when these two teams play. Constant self-mutilation and nothing more. Thankfully, in the second overtime, Prabula off of his legs would put the Zoo in the end zone, leading us to another pathetic attempt at Auburn offensing. Or lack thereof.
Arnold. Taken down! Gets rid of it to his offensive lineman. And that's how it will end.
Wow, what a fitting ending. An illegal touching penalty. Would have been fitting for Freeze to get fired on that notion. Take your bowl eligibility and go home.
All right!
Now at 6 wins, Mizzou's heading into College Game Day versus Vandy, where Eli Drinkwitz will surely deliver some riveting commentary about this upcoming masterclass. In the holiest of wars, Utah and BYU faced off in a surprisingly drama-free edition of their eternal grudge match. No ADs crying about ref ball this time, just two evenly matched offenses trading blows for bragging rights and Big 12 clout. The color combo battle was so hot, with both teams looking sharp even as the scoreboard stayed tight. It was a grind of a game, methodical, balanced, and tense. But when it came down to it, the Bear stepped up, making just enough key plays for BYU, and it mattered most. In the end, we only needed one field goal from the high school because nobody else felt like kicking today, and Will Ferrell's clutch boot made all the difference, sending Bravo into a frenzy. Who else but RG3 to make a comment like, "That kick was cheeks." The Bear is feasting for certain, and with this win, BYU has officially taken over the Big 12, though they might want to keep an eye on Kansas before crowning themselves kings. What else is there to expect? Oklahoma State is cooked. Cincinnati walked into Stillwater and absolutely blew the Cowboys to smithereens, confirming the possibility that that Week 1 loss against Nebraska might have been pure Mickey Mouse magic. Despite the chaos, Oklahoma State shockingly stuck with one quarterback, Sam Jackson, though it didn't matter as much as the offense continued to play like Stillwater itself. On the flip side, Brendan Sorsby's Heisman run quietly raged on, as he looked sharper every week since that ugly debut, orchestrating another crisp and confident Bearcat performance. Him bringing a Heisman Trophy to Nipples Stadium would be pure comedy for the college football world, but it is certainly a possibility. With this win, Cincinnati is now joining in the bowl eligibility party. And dare we say it, a return to the playoff picture for Cincinnati as a power program isn't necessarily off the table. The scoreboard set domination, but the poor Oklahoma State fans seem to think they've still improved. I'm giving them credit for still having hope. Let's see how long that lasts. Florida State's 2025 spiral officially hit terminal velocity in Palo Alto, as Stanford, yes, the trees of death, outlasted them in ACC after dark. It felt like a fever dream from a darker timeline. The vengeful trees took advantage of a wounded FSU squad that racked up 444 yards of offense, but still couldn't finish drives. The Tank Knowles would get no love from the football gods, and even worse, they get no love from the injury bug either. Haven't they been through enough? Give them a break! Despite this, the Seminoles' biggest issue was deja vu, dominating the stat sheet, losing the scoreboard. FSU, once untouchable in ACC play, hasn't won a conference game in over a year. From 76 to 2020, the Seminoles have never had a losing streak of 4 or more games. Mike Norvell has managed that 4 times in his tenure. Stanford tried to remedy this for you. They even let you reach the 2-yard line in the final seconds, only for absolute AIDS to happen on the field.
Sawchuk in the backfield, Sperry on the shovel pass. Did he get there?
After further review, the ruling on the field of the runner being short of the goal line is upheld. There's the ball game.
Guess that's all the convincing I need. Florida State blew their load against Bama in Week 1 and has been spiritually seceded from football relevance ever since. At this point, Jordan Travis might need royalties from Norvell's inevitable buyout. Whew, there we go. Those are all the games from this week. While we've already covered a fair portion, we aren't done just yet, for there is still more that has to be unsealed. Firstly, here's this week's edition of the Squidtard Top 25. While you're currently taking to the comments in a fit of rage, take the time to hit the subscribe button and help advance the influence of this channel to college football fans. We all must be influenced by the chaos. With that said, let's see the other teams who are also reaching bowl eligibility this week. The Bulls haven't just taken over the group of 5, they own it. Body and soul. They left a trail of destruction in its wake, galloping down the trail of death with Byron Brown leading the charge like a god in shoulder pads. Every defense that stood in their way got trampled under the green and gold stampede. And while Memphis might have ruined the perfect dream for your strength of schedule, USF absolutely did their part in proving that they're not just the best in the G5, they might be better than half of the Power 5 too. And Florida. Welcome to bowl eligibility. Oh boy, the green is waving so hard right now. Bowl eligible for the 4th straight year, proving consistency is the name of the game down in New Orleans. Under the BYU, the Wave have been riding consistently high through the chaos of 2025, even after a quarterback change that could have sunk lesser programs. Instead, Tulane's offense has remained sharp, disciplined, and downright fun to watch, holding its own in a year where BYU and Tulane both look good. Now for Tulane to sniff an outside shot at the playoffs, they'll need a little help. Specifically for South Florida to finally take a tumble. But regardless of how the chips fall, it's clear Tulane is rolling onward. Old Dominion sure did try to make a game out of this one, existing for about a quarter of football before vanishing off the face of the earth. Turns out the Dukes are just fine without Kirk Cignetti. Maybe even better. Bob Chesney has picked up the torch and is carrying it like he was born to do it, keeping JMU's trademark grit and swagger fully intact. The Dukes' offense has been nothing short of electric, lighting up scoreboards across the Sun Belt. Imagine giving up 63 points to JMU. The purple and gold machine rolls onward back to a bowl. You know, it's sure a shame that the UNC battle isn't a home and home. Well, they certainly took no time off after the belt to cheeks they got from the Bulls. If they get a defense somewhere down the line, they will be an absolutely legitimate force. They're also going to need some big-time help in order to keep the playoff run going. But Drew Deathmaker is doing work, and this is still setting up to be one of the best years in history for the program. For now, take pride in seeing a bowl game again. Turns out when you turn the ball over less, you got better odds of winning. Who would have thunk it? Look at this. Hawaii football is back. We're getting that much closer to 2007 again on the islands. Under Timmy Chang, the Warriors have rekindled some sort of old school swagger, slinging the ball around and lighting up the scoreboard like it's Colt Brennan season all over again. Chang clearly trying to ascend to the Power 4, building a program that's no longer content with just being known as the Week 0 starter pack. It's competitive, disciplined, and dangerously overlooked. With their first bowl appearance since 2019 now on the horizon, the vibes in Honolulu are immaculate. The Aloha spirit is back. Maybe this time they'll reach higher than the Hawaii Bowl. Could always be worse though. At least you're not eliminated this week. In front of a crowd of like maybe a handful of rats, the Bearcats went out an hour away from their campus and got beat down again. All of their home games are now road games. Not even the homeless shelter wants anything to do with y'all. I can't think of a good reason to ride the buses to class. Yet all your fans gotta do this just to get to a rental stadium. You're like Miami without the rings from last generation. I can't think of a more poetic way for them to get their 7th loss than at the hands of a backup for Malachi Nelson on a Wednesday night. This is for getting the cherry on top of the sundae of which came from the UTEP Miners. They debuted a new tradition of smashing rocks because they found it more entertaining to imitate caveman than to beat up on your sorry ass. Credit to Phil Longo, for now he's sapped the limited life out of 2 programs back to back. Glad to know we have a new Idaho in the FBS. 0-7. 0 and dadgum 7. And somehow managing to hit Oregon State level despair without even the Pac-12 collapse excuse. Their loss to Buffalo was the most UMass ending possible. A chaotic mix of turnovers, blown coverages, and clock mismanagement that felt like performance art and futility. It was, in every sense, losing a game in the most UMass way possible. At this point, fans don't even need to finish the joke. You can't spell UMass without... you know. Breaking news! Norvell has been canned at last! The despair on the FSU man's face once realization hit who it was must have been an immaculate sight. While this tenure wasn't all bad, it never quite became what the fans hoped it would be. It's crazy to think that he somehow managed to beat Fresno State, but one upset win wasn't enough to save him from the inevitable. To his credit, Rams fans remain thankfully dragged the program out of the rubble left behind in the Mike Bobo era, yet he could never get over that final hump. The timing of his firing comes as Pac-12 teams prepare for the 2026 grind, and Colorado State now joins the carousel early, searching for its next savior. Maybe Georgia will be generous enough to give Mike Bobo back just to complete the circus of Mountain West mediocrity. Jay Norvell? You just never really know how long things are going to last in this sport. Before you know it, your best and most overly used joke might vanish in the blink of an eye. How could you possibly react to such an event transpiring? And now, the end is near, and so I face the final Billy Napier! My friend, I'll say it's clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway, except Blackway, and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Billy Napier! Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, Throw another screen on 3rd and long, you absolute dumbass. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. You spit on who? I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway. DJ, that's the wrong way! And more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. The record shows I took the blows and did it my way. Billy Napier!
There's no quick fix here. The best thing to do is go win. We saw that last week. In general here, we got to stay the course and keep going here. I think we got a lot of kids in there trying to do things the right way.
Sayonara, buddy. I'ma miss ya.